Hey, my name is Anna, and I'm here with Nate and a special guest, which we will introduce in a second. But first, if you haven't been here before, my name is Anna. I'm the founder of Second Careers, and I help people find their place in tech. And Nate, tell us about yourself.
My name is Nate Hobi. I am a software engineer at Amazon, and I'm the founder of Hire.js. And I help people early in their code careers find non-traditional paths and get to their first paid opportunity as quickly as possible.
So today we're going to cover a number of different topics. Um, and one of the first ones is how to transition into a role with little experience. And Mishal is here with us today to kind of show us what his journey looked like and some of the things that you can learn from that. So welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, so I'm Mishal, and I'm working as a data analyst. Uh,
Yeah, so maybe you can start with when you decided you wanted to go into data, what helped you land that first or second job to get the experience to build a career in data analytics?
Definitely, yeah. So I mean, I've always had like a coding data background. So I did my bachelor's in computer science, and then I came here to the U.S. to do my master's. I was like I wanted to do data, so I did data science. And I started after graduating, I started looking for jobs. It was hard. I was cold applying. Slowly, I started like realizing kind of like the market trends, and like I just kind of like started talking to a lot of recruiters and like kind of gained an idea of what was really going on. And really, at that time, like it was like 2 years ago, but at that time, it was also kind of similar. Well, I feel like now people say it's much worse, but at that time, also the jobs were, like a lot difficult to get, and especially for international people. And one main thing was like what I found was like networking and like reaching out to recruiters rather than cold applying, right? In fact, I actually read a post today by Alex the Analyst. He's like a big guy in the data community, and he was like one of the recruiters was telling him that only 10% of candidates that are hired come from cold applying, right? So really, like, what I did and what, everyone's kind of like, I think this is really the way to go about it, at least that worked for me, was like networking and like really instead of cold applying to jobs, I was like cold applying or like cold connecting to recruiters and like industry leaders, right? Like I actually even made like a bot on Python who would just go and like connect and be like, hey, this is like a bot. Come check out my GitHub, and I got some referrals through that and stuff. So basically, yeah, just like trying and like that's how I kind of got into okay, this is what I need to do to like get attention and like get like an
Yeah.
interview and stuff. And yeah, once that was done, like I had like the skills. So I started like I got an internship, proved myself, and then I got a job. So it was pretty smooth after that.
Awesome. So walk me through some of your networking philosophy.
Definitely. So I mean, at that time, while I was applying, right, like I was new to networking. So like I said, I created a bot. I was just like cold applying, like just be like, hey, I'm interested in this job and stuff like that. But what I've really realized, especially now, I've been using networking not just for like job search or, just like connecting with people. That's more important. So I think that's what's like the true value of networking is, where you're like, talking to people, connecting, being real, and like making that connections. That does not, it's just not where it only doesn't have to be about a job, but like it could be about anything, right? Like, for example, right now I'm like through networking, I'm here, like I met Anna, right? So that's something. And then I've been like volunteering at like nonprofits and stuff with like, really really interesting stuff that I'm doing, and it's all because of networking, right? Like I'm also part of a Discord community where we're helping, like people break into data. It's literally called break into data, but yeah, like all this stuff, like I feel like is happening because I was like networking and like being real, right? Just not being like, oh, I need to do this or I need this from you, but being more like, hey, how can we help each other, right? And I think in the job search too, that's one of the ways that you should approach, or that I also approached it. Is like, hey, this is the job you have, this is my resume, this is how I can help you, right? Like that's how if you reach out to a recruiter like that, versus you just be like, hey, I'm interested in this job, like it's not that you don't stand out. So I think that's
Mhm.
one way. Be like, if you're really applying for a job and want to connect to recruiters, be like, this is your skill sets, right? And don't like one thing that I always do is like try to keep in touch with the recruiters. So like, even though I don't get the job or I don't get a call back or anything, I still try to like, at least on LinkedIn or whatever email or
Mhm.
whatever I have, I try to like keep in touch. So that way like if there's like further future opportunities, I get, reached out and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, that's really my approach. It's pretty simple, just being real. But yeah.
Mhm. Awesome.
It's
Thank
amazing.
you.
I have a question for you, Mishal.
Yeah.
Can you please talk a little bit more about this bot? Because I think there is a level of genius to what you did that is amazing. And it's meta. Like you're reaching out to data people about your interest in data with a data project. So like,
Yeah. But
did you have like, did you have any sort of like thought that like this is going to be really interesting to people that are in this space because it is meta, or did you just like happen to just kind of land on that approach? Like what inspired you to take that sort of meta approach with writing this bot that did this networking for you? Because that's like so cool.
yeah, so I think it was more like I was tired of applying or like connecting with people, right? Like just like clicking and clicking, like finding people. And once I figured out like the search filters and how you kind of find the people, then I was like, hey, I need to sharpen my Python skills because I've been doing data for a while and mostly like SQL and stuff. So I was like, I need to do this. Maybe this can be a cool project, and like I can use it to connect, like exactly like you said, right? Like it came from me being lazy as well, but a part of it was like, hey, this is like it'll help, it'll make my job easier, so why not, right?
Did you talk about so like when you I thought I heard you mention like when you're actually reaching out, you mentioned that you were reaching out like with a bot like in your message.
So usually when you connect with people, you can have like a personalized note, and I think there's a character limit, right? So I couldn't go into detail, but I'll be like, hey, this is a connection request, and this is created by a bot. You can check, like I give them the GitHub link so they can go and check out the code, and I just be like, hey, what do you think? I'm looking for a job, So, and then
That is so cool, dude.
yeah, and I had a lot of people
That is
reach out.
genius.
It worked, so yeah.
Yeah.
Were some
It
of the
reminds
response?
me of
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
tell us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so I even got a referral to Facebook. At the time, it was Facebook, right? But like I didn't get through it because I didn't have experience at the time. But like I did, like it definitely worked, right? Like I made a lot of awesome connection with data leaders as well, right? So like analytics managers and like just amazing people in general that I learned from just by like reading their LinkedIn posts and everything. So overall, it's really been beneficial. But yeah.
That's so cool.
Great. Thank you. Nate, did you have a question earlier?
So I was just going to mention, so it's not exactly the same thing that you did, but when I was doing interview preparation to get into Amazon, I wanted to practice like getting caught off guard in interviews, and I also needed to like brush up on React because like I knew it was like a React job, and I hadn't been doing React for a while, so I wrote a little React application to like quiz me and to like give me random questions that I would talk to it like an interviewer, right? And then that actually came up in the interview. Like they were at one of my interviewers asked me like how I prepared. And I told them this, and it was sort of kind of like a meta solution, right? It was like using code to actually help with like job preparation, job search stuff. And like they were really impressed by that. So I think like for technical people out there, get creative. Like you can use your technical abilities in your job search and in your interview prep, and often, like, those are the kinds of things that people are really interested to hear about. It's not just like this generic reach out, right? There's like, it's relevant to what you're doing, it's using your skills, and you don't see it every day. So there's just like a level there that you can kind of like tap into a bunch of different things at once. And I think that's like really
Maybe your next course of action will be a course on creating a reach out bot. to get interviews. That would be funny. Um, cool. Well, maybe we can end on this. So I'm not sure if you're like looking for your next role or not, but like, what's the strategy that, you know, works? Like, how would you use that to find a new role?
Is that for me? I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying, like, if you're looking for a new role, now that you have a couple of years of experience and, this is like the space that you want to focus on, what strategies would you use today to find a new role?
Definitely. So, like right now, I think a lot of people or a lot of companies, there's like you see, there's a lot of people applying for jobs. There's a lot of competition. So I think what you could do to stand out is like how would you fix whatever company you're applying for? So one thing I would do is like niche down, right? Niche down to an industry or niche down to like a role, right? Do like in data, there's like data analyst, data engineer, analytics engineer, data scientist. Like they all have like different, tools and stuff that they use. So first, I think you should niche down, find what you really want to do, right? What your skills are, what, that you can take advantage of. And then what I would do is like, I mean, if you have projects, that's good, but if you don't have projects, build projects that solve problems that these companies face, right? Like one thing that you could do, and I think you should do this even if you're like preparing for interviews, like a lot of companies, they have engineering blogs. So like Spotify or like Duolingo or like almost all the, I mean, the Mango, all of the companies have it, but like even other companies, they have engineering blogs where they break down how they approach things and how, really like the architecture of something works. So like when you do that research, you know what's happening, like what's the leading stuff, what's the edge in the, in your industry, right? That you want to apply for. And then you also find out the problems that they might be facing. And if you don't even have to do a project, but if you already have answers to those solutions or like answers to those questions, my bad, I think, you already have like you're already standing out. I feel like you already have the job. So if you're coming with me and you're like, hey, I'm trying to get a job in healthcare. I'm having, these are the problems that I found out from your website and your blogs, and this is how I can help. I mean, I think you're already like 3 steps ahead. But yeah.
Awesome. So, Nate, is there something you want to mention? Maybe a last question?
I didn't want to respond because I wasn't sure if you were talking and you were frozen there for a second. But I did want to say, Michelle, like I just like 100% agree with everything that you said. Like niching down is huge and understanding what you want to do. And then like you're like hyper targeting. That's what you're doing. You're like looking at the companies that you're interested in working for and you're doing your research. And when you like you're just going to be so much further ahead than other candidates when you do get an opportunity to interview if you've sort of put yourself in that headspace. And then especially, yeah, like if you go a step beyond, you're able to actually put projects together that solve the types of problems that these companies are facing. Like it's just huge. So I would echo everything you said. And it's cool to see it's cool to see someone coming from data in your case sort of with a similar perspective. I have one more question for you, and this is kind of maybe a little bit of a switching gears a little bit, but um, I'm curious because people have asked me this before. People have asked me like, Nate, what do you think about going into data? And I usually have to tell them like, well, I'm not really that familiar with it. So, Mishal, can you give us a little more context on like what specifically drew you to that? I know you had a computer science background, you had a coding background. What specifically drew you to go in that direction of data engineering?
Definitely. So what really drove me is like in my undergrad, I didn't really enjoy computer science. I was good at coding, like I was good at Python and stuff, but I didn't really enjoy the classes and stuff. So for my final project, I was like, I'm gonna do complete something completely different, and I did like a R project on like data analysis, right? And we published a paper and stuff, but that really got me into like, okay, I really like kind of understanding what the data means, how to like get information out of it, right? And like there's a lot of processes to that, but that's really what I love, right? Like how can I help build like solutions or like this is I felt like that was like what I wanted to do, and that's when I went into data science in my master's. And when I did my data science, it was all like technical and statistics and machine learning and mathematics and all that. And I was like, this is a little too much, right? Like I want to stick with data, right? Like I don't want to go like all that stuff. So I was like, okay, data science is where it is. Intelligence, that's what drew me in because that's more like you have to be a lot more social or like you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to understand what the business needs are, right? You're like answering the questions, like kind of translating that into like technical questions for people to solve. So I felt like that's where my pocket was, and I started this, and now I'm actually getting more into the engineering side. So I'm like I'm trying to upskill myself right now, but like I'm trying to learn different like because that's I think my coding and data will come together in data engineering. So that's where I'm thinking, like I'm getting interested in. So yeah, data is a big field. You really need to figure out what you want to do, right? You can go technical, you can go mathematical, you can go research, you can go more business oriented. It's really your choice. And like I think if someone's interested in data, just explore all the roles, talk to people, or reach out to people on LinkedIn who are in data or whatever field that you want to be, right? And then you get an idea of what that job's like and if you really want to do it.
It's amazing. I love the self-awareness, finding your pocket, realizing that like the one path that everyone else was going was maybe not the path that you wanted to take, and you went and you explored. And I think that's huge because people, when they get on this journey, it's so easy to kind of have these horse blinders. Sometimes that can be a good thing, right? To stay focused. But often, being able to align your journey to your personality, your strengths, what you're interested in doing, that in and of itself is a skill. So really cool to hear, how that's played out for you. And thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll be in touch. This is the first of many conversations. Really fascinating to learn about your journey. So thank you again. And I'm sure Mishal will be back on either in this format or another format. And we can I'll learn from his background as well.
Yeah, I look forward to, doing more of these as well.
Okay.
Amazing. Thanks for joining, Mishal.
See you guys.
So I feel like we learned quite a lot about maybe how to be creative, right? And a little bit of meta can like doing something that's super meta can really resonate with people, right?
Yeah. Super cool story. Again, just like thinking outside the box, um, using your skills that you're learning, to aid in your job search. And I love the classic thing about that story is that ultimately it was driven by, not wanting to go in and click through every single connection. Every engineer developer I know of can relate to that level of wanting to automate and, I don't want to call it laziness, but definitely, that's exactly why I've done stuff like that in the past too. And Mishal said as much, as he was sharing that he just was sick of, trying to connect with every single person. So I think that part really resonates with engineers as well, just like wanting to automate things, wanting to, systematize it, right? Systematize the process. And that can often make things easier for you. It takes out some of the emotional attachment, right? So when you're getting started with something like networking, having some system, it doesn't have to be, a code automation, but having some kind of systemization where, you're not necessarily emotionally attached to every single person you're trying to connect to, that can be so huge, right? Because it gets you over that hump of, oh, what are they going to think about me if if they don't really, if it's an unwanted connection or whatever. There's a bunch of other things that might come up for you, but having that systematized process, doing volume and, going down, approaching it with that sensibility is often the thing that leads people to win, right? Because they're doing volume and they're being consistent.
Yeah, isn't it pretty crazy, like the volume part? Because like I don't think as humans, like we never were adapted for that. And now all of a sudden we're tasked with this completely like seemingly illogical situation. Right? There's all these people in the world and like they can help us, but who? How do we sift through that? Volume is part of it. and kind of reaching a certain quantity of people. Of course, filtering that, not everyone, but just utilizing all these different tools that are relatively new for our society and the human brain in a way, right? So finding things that are
Yeah.
unique to you, I think is really important. I think it's a little hard and like different at first of like, well, what does that mean? Right? So finding your voice, maybe you don't start like DMing people first. Maybe you just follow a couple of creators, slash coaches, slash engineers, whoever, and then engage with them and then find your voice in just commenting and having connection calls with people, right? From there, you learn like, what do you want to share? What makes more sense to talk about? What are you proud of? What do you don't want to talk about as much? Stuff like that. What's one thing that helped you, find your voice? I mean, especially since you developed a whole program to help engineers kind of through this process.
Yeah, I think like one thing that that has really helped me and has helped me help other people is leaning on what your interests are and really thinking deeply about you know, maybe I'm not the most social person in the world, but if I were to talk to somebody effortlessly, what would that thing be about? It might not be coding, right? It might be something else. You might be really, really passionate about politics. You might be really, really passionate about, I don't know, a certain hobby that you have, right? What does that look like, right? And think about those conversations, and what the types of things that you say and the type of things that you discuss. Um, when you do that work, you start to, first of all, give yourself an idea of potentially how you could niche down. So, sort of going back to Mishal's example, he niched down to a specific thing that he wanted to do. Um, and then kind of going on top of that or adding on top of that, like what interests you, what's in your background, what is easy for you to talk about, right? And then if you can kind of lean on that, right, to start, that will be a way that you can, pretty quickly find your voice. So even maybe even some creators, like I love the idea of starting just by commenting on different creators, like on LinkedIn to find your voice. Maybe that's not even for your necessarily for your job search. Obviously, it's better if it could be if for that, right? But maybe it's for something else that you're passionate about, and just getting over the hump of putting yourself out there and sending a comment out publicly, right, on LinkedIn. So just finding some way that feels really, really aligned to your personality and that feels really aligned and sort of within your comfort zone at first, right? Because commenting or doing something publicly is going to be out of your comfort zone already. So starting as close to what feels natural to you as possible, and then slowly, building out, the types of people that you're connecting with, and the types of things that you're talking about, with those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. So recognizing the topics that you do care about, that's a great way to start. And that also helps you find like a niche or a pocket. And therefore, you can talk to people that are not software engineers, but are in that space of, I don't know, health or rock climbing or politics or whatever. They're a person with a job. They also have connections. So it's about kind of zooming out and just like starting with what you're passionate about. And then that will create the path that will showcase what makes sense for you to do next in a way. And I find like a lot of people struggle in this career change space when they're trying to look for like their first job or sometimes second or third, but they really like zoom in on this one skill that's like technical, for example, and then they don't engage on like other topics. Like you can start with the other topics and then add on the technical stuff. It doesn't have to be all like a job talk all the time. Like a lot of
Mhm.
times people help you that you meet in like, like personal interests or hobby situations or just randomly because you're like at the same event or something. Um, so it's interesting how you can both kind of like zoom in on something that's a personal interest, or even zoom out and just kind of see what people are talking about and then pick a topic from there.
I was just gonna say, like, I think like trying to, if you can, I know this is really hard. Like when you're obviously like you're in this job search mode, you're trying to achieve a specific thing. What Annan and I will tell you over and over again is that if you can focus on like becoming the type of person who networks automatically, sort of separate from this goal that you have, it's the fastest way to achieving your goal. Like, and it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but if you can focus on becoming a networker or becoming the type of person who, you know, can reach out to people and who's comfortable with that and is effective with that because they know sort of how everything works, you know, within the job market, um, that is going to be the quickest way for you to actually achieve your goal. So if you can kind of keep that perspective, obviously you're still trying to do a specific thing, right? You're trying to get interviews, you're trying to get a job, right? But at the same time, like it's okay to just focus on becoming, you know, the type of person who networks, becoming a good networker. That in and of itself is a huge win, and it's gonna like pay dividends all throughout your career, even past this next goalpost you have.
Yeah. So this topic is very important. And one thing that I want to kind of mention in addition to that is aligning expectations in terms of timeline. Whatever people have heard from boot camps may not be completely accurate. Maybe you've had friends that found roles, like their first role in like 3 months just by sending cold apps. Maybe that was a couple years ago. That's fine, you know? But it may not be the exact same situation for you, right? So what's interesting is figuring out like, okay, how do I manage, you know, the timeline of this could take more time than expected, but still keep motivated, right? Because it's about the momentum, not exactly the immediate return. If you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I got. Let me just repeat it back to you. It was real choppy, but I think you were just asking like how to manage timeline, how to manage expectations on like how long your job search could take. Is that sort of the gist?
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
because networking is not the always most immediate.
right. Okay. So I think it's really, really important, and this is I truly believe what separates people who sort of stay in this cycle of, you know, struggling with their job search and getting discouraged from people who are able to see success is being proactive with your skill set outside of a full-time job opportunity in some capacity in a way that's exciting and engaging to you. So, what do I mean by that? Okay. Um, Obviously, it's going to be probably the most, or I should say, it's going to be the easiest thing to do just to like hyper focus on your job search, on networking, on again, that specific goal and kind of not doing anything else, right? So you're not or practicing product design or UX design or whatever you're trying to break into, you're kind of shelving that, right? And instead, you're just focused on these job opportunities. Um, the the opportunities that come your way will often be because of your proactivity in exercising your skill set outside of a full-time job. So that's the number one thing I would say is if you are punting on doing a project or being engaged with your skill set proactively, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You have to find some way to exercise that. And I know it's hard, you know, when you're not getting paid, when you're not seeing that momentum that you want to be seeing. But I would say, first of all, pretty quickly, you can probably find ways to get paid. You know, maybe potential. I know I talk a lot about freelance projects. I know that might not be for everybody, but if you do one or two projects like for low cost or for free, that will give you the confidence to, you know, start charging for that stuff. But even, you know, even just doing a project that is growing your skill set, that is keeping you engaged, that's keeping you excited about what you're doing and what you're trying to break into, that energy is going to attract those opportunities. So that's the big sort of differentiator that I see between people who are able to, get interviews and land opportunities and people who still kind of struggle to, find those opportunities. It's really this proactivity, like outside of the job search, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I think if you hyper focus on something that isn't immediately in your control, which no job search is in anyone's control, no search of anything, like your search for a partner, you're like, I don't know, maybe some searches on Amazon, like retail, is somewhat in your control. Big life things, okay? I don't know, search for a house or something. Like there's a million things outside of your control. So you want to really focus on those things that you can control and use your time in a way that um, creates motivation and momentum. And
Mm-hmm.
that's building relationships and building projects, like working on your skills. It could also be related to learning, like maybe you have another job, right? That you are working to pay the bills, and you can't have, the right amount of time to build projects, but you could do learning. You can watch videos, read articles, books, whatever. Um, so there's different ways you can be proactive depending on your lifestyle and stuff. But a lot of people that do have the opportunity to job search full time or like be in that transition space without other jobs, that is an amazing time to build, right? And to practice your skills and to continue learning, but through this more practical way. And to use that as a catalyst for building relationships, essentially. Because what do
Yep.
you want to talk about? What are you going to feel passionate talking about? The fact that like you're looking for a job or that you're building something? What's going to create more conversation?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And kind of going back to like something that we talked about, I think last week or maybe the week before, is um like really marrying these things together, right? Like building and networking and relationships. Like kind of not looking at them as separate things, but sort of looking them as one holistic thing that you're doing. That perspective or keeping that perspective will also really help you, I think, have fun with it and sort of keep that momentum, because you're finding other people to build with or build for, and you're not just trying to necessarily network with people who can give you opportunities. You're networking with people who might build something with you or who might help you create an idea for something. um, so yeah, just a quick addition onto that, Anna. But that's all I had.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever you can do to maintain your own motivation, like that's what's most important. Um, and it looks different for everyone. So a lot of times I ask someone like, what are your goals? What are you looking to do, create in your life? Like a job is almost a means to an end most of the time. Um, it's a way through which we grow and learn. It also sustains our life because that's the system, right? We live in. But there's a lot of opportunities um, to become like to grow as a person through it. But it is like a journey. It's not like a destination. And in any journey, there's a lot of different areas we can um, grow through, right? And maybe building relationships is something you haven't done yet. This is an opportunity to start learning how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're moving into tech for the first time, this may be a whole new ballpark for you.
Yep.
So maybe we can switch gears a little bit and talk about leverage, a conversation that I have been starting behind the scenes. So I find that a lot of times we have projects and accomplishments And even, relationships, we all know people. But then we say things like, I don't know anyone, or I haven't done much. But where do we go from there? Because that's not going to really move us anywhere, right? That's basically like devaluing what we already have. I mean, like, give me more. I don't have anything, but you do, but you don't see it.
That's right. Yeah. So I think like everyone has a background. Everyone is coming from somewhere. Everyone is, probably has some people they know, right? Maybe not everybody has the most built out, general network or has the most built out first connections, right? But everybody has a background. Everybody has their own unique struggles and strengths. And you're not, I think like one thing you just need to realize is like there are other people who share that with you, right? Um, so I think like just thinking deeply about what you have, thinking deeply about what your background is, what your strengths are, and proactively cataloging that. Like write it down, make bullet points about what you bring to the table, that other people might not be bringing to the table. What areas, either professionally or non-professionally, what areas do you have experience in that maybe someone else might not have experience in? And like just to give like a simple example, I think of a mom, for instance, who's put their career on hold and is trying to get back into the workforce. For a mom to sit across the table from me and say, like, I don't really have any background to work with, or I don't really have any strengths, that are unique. Like, you literally like, you're dripping with unique experience and perspective and background just intrinsically because you're a mother and you've gone through the hard work of caring for little your little ones, and there's just all kinds of hard challenging stuff wrapped up in that journey. And not only that, but there's other moms that are working professionally, there's other moms that are managers that share that struggle. So like um right away you have something that you can connect with other people on, who sort of share that part of your journey along with you. And that's just one example, right? Like the mom thing is just one example, but yeah, sit with it. Like sit with yourself. Like what you have today, right? Like what background, what experience, and what strengths, are you sitting on, and that you're likely ignoring or devaluing, at this specific point of time. Yeah.
Yeah. As a quick follow-up, so my cousin, she's not in tech, she's a lawyer, and she has a specialty of housing law, specifically nonprofits. She found her next role because she became a mom last year. She joined a mom's group, and out of all the people she met, one of them was also obviously a mom working in housing and nonprofits. And she knew that her nonprofit was up to hire someone new, and she gave her a referral, my cousin. So that's how she got her new job. So whatever you have at your disposal, even if that's like literally a new identity, use it. That's your leverage. Um, I know that a lot of times opportunities arises when you join groups like a mom's group, right? Especially a new mom's group. It doesn't mean you gotta like become a mom just to find them, but that's something that if you are in that group, you can leverage. Um, I'm sure there's dad groups, right? Just identifying with being a father. Nate is the father of multiple children. I often say things like your gender, you could use that. There's groups just for women in tech, or data people in tech. So not specifically gender, but just a specialty or a role. There's groups for musicians in tech. There's groups for almost anything you can think of. That's the beauty of society. We have developed a million different communities out there. So ask people like, what communities are they in? What Slack groups are they in? How are they engaging with people? Find your one extroverted friend and ask them, what people are you talking to? What are they doing? Can you intro me to some of them? maybe that one friend is someone you can leverage to help you. And you know what? They're your friend. So, of course, I would hope they would want to help you. Maybe, I don't know, your relatives or a parent is super well connected and they can give you some intros. Like, there are people that want to help you today. So, whether you are entering a new category like motherhood or you just have people around you that you haven't asked for help, like that's the first place you could start.
I think like if someone is just feeling stuck, right? Like I don't feel like I have momentum. I don't feel like or I'm going in the right direction. Likely, like one of my first things I would ask them or suggest is like join two new communities, right? It could be an online community. Ideally, it's like a local in-person community in some way. But like you need to get some perspective. You need to get out of your head. And and that means connecting with other people and being a part of a community. And I think like um getting into new community and trying to introduce yourself to two or three new people within that community without really an agenda, right? Just talking about your journey and just getting just becoming the type of person who builds in-person connections or online connections through these communities that are already there. Like if you're not leveraging that and you're feeling stuck, like that is going to be such a huge mover for you.
Yeah. And that's basically all we have. Like all of us, right? That's how we live through connections. Nate and I met because we were kind of in each other's realm on LinkedIn. And then he was thinking of building something that I also wanted in terms of an app. And we connected, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. You can build that. This is so great. Then we started talking, and we're like, oh, there's a lot of similarities of our mindset and what we want to build. So we're gonna build something together. But like that started because we were both engaging in the community of like career changers, bootcamp grads, things like that through LinkedIn. If your LinkedIn feed doesn't feel like a community, if you're like not seeing people's posts that you want or enjoy or something like that, like you can change that. You have the power to change who you follow and add more people. And LinkedIn can be like this microcosm of people that you reach out to and create an actual feeling of community with. Um, so that's possible. Um, there's a ton of tools out there in terms of like groups and searches and stuff where you can further explore. But at its core, like LinkedIn is a social network. So be social.
Yeah.
Find ways to be social. I do want to leave on a bit of note about like how we can leverage different things about our backgrounds. Um, so Nate, maybe you can dive into, what was something you were able to leverage when you just started freelancing? Like you were just starting out. What were you doing there to get started?
Yeah. So first of all, it was just the first thing, and it's not the only thing. I'll get into a couple other things in a second, but the first thing is just not ignoring the people you already know. Like that's what I would say. So my first freelance opportunities came from people I already knew who could who were willing to sort of take a chance on me, and they had a project that was kind of low risk. So just being aware of those opportunities, and it really just takes like one or two people who know that you're trying to do this new thing, and they might have something that you can work on, or they might know someone who has a project that you can work on. So the first thing I'd say is you can't ignore the people you already know. Like that's going to be um, that's often the way that people break into brand new careers. It's just through those connections they already have. The second thing, so kind of moving forward from that, is within those first couple opportunities that I had, I realized the niched down part of web development that I really enjoyed, which for me was being detail oriented and making things that I'm building feel good to use. And that sort of dictated, the types of opportunities that I pursued and accelerated with moving forward. So, you know, after sort of, getting a hold of a few paid opportunities within the people I knew, really recognizing what resonated with me in terms of what I was working on and what I enjoyed and also what I didn't enjoy, right? Because you will very quickly be in a position where you get to choose what you work on, right? Even if you're working for a company, you often have a lot of influence in regards to the types of things that you're working on. Your manager will, often give you the opportunity to go work on one project or another project based on, what you find exciting. So the other thing I would say is just really being in tune with what types of projects you like to work on beyond like, oh, I like learning new things and solving problems with code. Like that's fine, but like everybody says that. So I think like if you can recognize like what everybody's saying, like what about you is different? What about you is unique? You don't have to be the only person that resonates with like a specific thing, but like try to think a little more deeply like what really gets you excited about coding or about design. What types of projects have you enjoyed working on, and I think more importantly, what types of projects don't you enjoy working on? That can often be a key, right, for sort of understanding um, you know just your personality and what makes you tick. And that in and of itself is leverage, right? Because when you go to those next opportunities, you say, with more clarity, like I'm the type of person that really is good with this specific type of project. This is really where the type of thing that I shine. Or I haven't done this type of thing before, but I'm willing to give it a shot because there's this similarity to this other type of project that I enjoy. Um, so yeah, not ignoring your general network, the people you already know, and then very quickly starting to pay attention to what your strengths are, what resonates with you, and what makes you tick.
Amazing. So one thing that I like to reflect on is leverage is kind of like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, which essentially equals in more momentum, more relationships, more whatever, opportunities. So you have to start where you are, and where you are is the people you know today. Um, Showcase where you want to go and share that with them. And if they are able, they will find ways to help you. They maybe come up with a project and pay you just to help you. There are people that will do that for you. So don't underestimate what people can help you with today. And that's where you start. That's the leverage that you have today, the people you know right now. After that, once you have more work experience, your leverage becomes your skills and new relationships. And then you keep building on that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that's available to you today, right now. Like you have your computer, that's leverage. Someone without a computer can't use LinkedIn as well, right? Um, So a little bit is about just appreciate what you have. And then the other part is find ways to leverage what you have to create certain goals and outcomes for your life. So we'll end it on that today.